Eli Marin was a quiet man who liked the silence of space. He worked alone on orbital station Theto 7, a small human repair unit floating far above Earth's moon. His job was simple: check damaged satellites, fix broken antennas, and send reports back to Earth Command. For years, he had followed this routine without trouble, but everything changed one quiet morning. Eli sat in his control room, sipping recycled water and checking system logs. Suddenly, a small blinking light appeared on his screen. It was a distress. "Signilla, very weak one. Strange," he whispered, leaning closer. "This isn't from any human craft. The signal wasn't from Earth, Mars, or even any known space station. The code didn't match anything in their system. It pulsed like a heartbeat." Curious and slightly nervous, Eli tracked the source. It was coming from deep space, close to a drifting asteroid near the edge of their monitored sector. Eli knew the rules. If he found something unknown, he had to report it and wait for instructions, but something inside him said no, instead of waiting. He adjusted the ship's small pod thrusters and began flying toward the signal. After 30 minutes, he saw a small dark object stuck between two asteroid rocks. He brought the ship closer and turned on the external lights. What he saw made him gasp. It was a strange vessel, like nothing he had seen before. Its surface shimmered with colors, almost like a deep ocean. The ship looked broken, its outer shell cracked open. Eli scanned the craft for life signs. To his surprise, one life form appeared very faint, but still alive. He couldn't leave it there with careful precision. He docked his ship to the alien craft using the emergency lock. He put on his suit, grabbed a medkit, and entered. Inside was silent. There were no lights, no sounds, only a soft hum coming from deep inside the walls. Eli moved slowly through the narrow hallway until he reached a small control chamber, and that's when he saw her. A woman lay on the floor, curled up as if in sleep. She didn't look human. Her skin was a soft blue, like a twilight sky. Her hair floated gently in the air, dark and silky. Her clothes were made of a silver-like fabric, torn and dirty. Her breathing was weak, almost gone. For a moment, Eli just stared. She was the first alien he had ever seen, not from books or reports, but real, alive. And she looked peaceful. "I don't know who you are," he said softly, "but I'm not leaving you here." He gently lifted her into his arms. She was light, like she had lost too much weight. Carefully, he carried her back through the dock and placed her in the ship's med bay. The AI assistant, called Nora, started scanning her immediately. "Unknown. Species," the AI said. "Life signs? Critical. Stabilization recommended." Eli didn't know what she needed, but he followed the AI's steps, gave oxygen, adjusted temperature, and started hydration through a clean fluid drip. Hours passed. The alien woman remained asleep, but her vitals slowly improved. Eli sat beside her, watching, wondering. "Who are you?" he asked quietly. "What happened to you?" She didn't answer. Of course not. But Eli felt a strange connection, like she wasn't just a stranger. Something about her made the empty space feel warmer later that night. He sent a short message to Earth Command: "Unidentified vessel located. One survivor. Returning to base." He didn't give details. He didn't explain the woman. He just said enough to buy time. Days passed. The woman remained unconscious but stable. Eli began repairing her ship's black box to find out more. At the same time, he noticed something odd. The lights on his station flickered when he sat near her. His dreams became vivid. Sometimes he thought he heard a voice, soft, like a whisper, calling his name, but he told himself it was just stress. Until the third night, he was reading a manual when he heard a sound behind him, a soft breath. He turned. She was awake. She sat up slowly, her eyes half open. They were large silver with golden rings, and they locked onto his with no fear. Eli stood up quickly, unsure what to say. "Can you hear me?" he asked gently. The woman blinked. Then, with a slow nod, she looked around. Her voice was quiet, Strange, but she spoke one word. Human. Eli felt his heart jump. She understood him. "You're safe," he said. "You're on my station. I helped you. Do you remember anything?" The woman closed her eyes for a moment. Then she whispered a name. "Liari? That's your name?" he asked. She nodded again, and this time she smiled, faint, tired, but real. In that small moment, something powerful passed between them. Two beings from different worlds, sharing the same silence, the same breath of life, in the middle of empty space. Eli didn't know what was coming next. But one thing was clear. His quiet life was over. The station was quiet. Only the soft hum of machines and distant beeps from the control panels filled the silence. Eli Marin sat at his desk, watching the strange alien woman on the medbay screen. She had been awake for 2 days now. Her name was Liari. She still spoke very little, and when she did, her voice was calm, soft, almost musical. Eli could tell she was intelligent, but more than that, he could feel something deeper, like she could sense things without words. Each day, she grew stronger. She walked slowly around the ship, exploring the rooms with careful eyes. She never showed fear, only curiosity. Sometimes, she would stand near the window and stare at the stars for long minutes, not moving at all. When Eli asked what she was thinking, she would just smile gently and say, "Listening." Listening to what? He didn't know. Liari had started to understand some English. The AI assistant Nora was helping. Nora would speak simple words and show images. Liari learned quickly, too quickly. In just 2 days, she understood basic conversation. Eli was surprised. "Your people are fast learners," he said one evening. She looked at him, her golden eyes bright under the low lights. "My people feel," she said slowly. "We learn. With feeling, not only mind." That answer stayed with Eli for the rest of the night. A strange connection. Eli was used to machines. He worked with broken satellites, metal panels, cold wires. But Liari was different. Around her the air felt warmer. He didn't know why. One afternoon, as he checked the ship's systems, he felt her near him. She didn't speak. She just stood behind him, silent. "Need something?" he asked, without turning. "You feel sad?" she said quietly. Eli froze. He turned to her, confused. "What? You remember something?" "Heavy," she said. "Like a shadow inside you." Eli didn't reply. How could she know that? He hadn't spoken of his past to anyone, not even Nora. Years ago, he had lost his younger brother during a failed colony mission. That memory stayed buried. "How do you know that?" he asked. She walked closer, her steps light. "You don't hide your heart. It's open." Eli didn't know what to say. His chest felt tight, not from fear, but from something else, something new. Her past. Still unspoken that evening, Liari sat across from Eli in the small dining area. She touched her fingers gently to a warm cup of nutrient drink. She didn't eat human food, but she liked to feel the heat. "Where are you from?" Eli asked again. She didn't answer immediately. Her gaze dropped to the table. For a while it seemed she wouldn't speak at all. Then she whispered, "Cathari. Is that your planet?" She nodded once. It was quiet. Green, full of light and wind. She paused. Now, nothing. Eli felt something shift in the air. He leaned forward. Did something happen? They came. Machines. Not alive, but they destroy feeling. They don't want hearts, only silence. Eli frowned. "It means some kind of AI? A robot army?" Liari looked at him, her eyes filled with sorrow. Not army, a storm. That night Eli couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Liari's words. A storm of machines that hated emotion, that destroyed a whole world. He had never heard of such a thing in any Earth report. If she was telling the truth, then something terrible was moving in space. Something no human had faced yet. Orders from Earth the next morning. Eli received a message from Earth Command. Unusual signal traced to your last location. Explain. Return immediately for inspection. He stared at the words on the screen. They knew. Maybe not everything, but they were. Suspiciously, Ari stood behind him again. "You will leave me?" she asked. Eli turned around slowly. "No, but I have to tell them something. I can't hide you forever." She walked to the window again, her eyes staring into space. "They will not understand me. Your people use eyes and ears, not hearts." Stepped closer. "Some will try." She looked at him with a new softness. "You are different." He didn't know why, but those words made him feel lighter. The whisper in the air later that day. As Eli adjusted the gravity system, he suddenly felt something again, like someone whispering in his thoughts. He looked up, and Liari was watching. Him from across the room. Her lips didn't move, but he could hear her voice, faint and inside his mind. "Do not fear your truth, Eli," he gasped and took a step back. "Was that you?" She nodded slowly. "You can speak in my mind?" "Yes," she replied. "You allowed me in. I listened." "You feel lonely. I feel it too." Eli had no answer. For a long time they stood in silence. No words, just the quiet air between them. And yet everything was said. The bond begins as hours passed. Eli realized the connection between them was not ordinary. It wasn't just rescue. It wasn't just kindness. Something deeper was forming. Trust, emotion, maybe more. He didn't know what would happen next, but as Liari looked at him and softly said, "I will not leave unless you ask me to," Eli knew one thing. He didn't want her to leave. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Eli Marone was used to being alone. He had spent years in space, with only machines and silence around him. But now, with Liari walking through his station, everything felt different. She moved with grace, almost like floating, her silver blue skin caught the soft lights of the ship. She didn't say much, but Eli could feel her presence like a calm wind in a place where air never moved. And what made him most uneasy was how much she seemed to know about him, the past he never spoke. Of one morning, Eli sat by the control console, checking old files. His fingers stopped on an image, a photo of two boys, standing on a rocky cliff, smiling at the camera. It was Eli and his younger brother, Jamie. That photo was more than 10 years old. Jamie had been lost in a colony accident on Titan. It was a memory Eli never shared with anyone, not even his AI, Nora. As he stared at the image, he didn't hear Liari approach. She stood behind him quietly, then spoke in a soft voice. "He was kind," she said, "and brave. You loved him." Eli turned around quickly. "How do you know that?" She didn't answer with words. She placed a gentle hand over her heart. "I felt it," she said. "When you think of him, your emotions become like light. Bright, but painful." Eli's heart beat faster. "Are you reading my mind?" She shook her head. "Not reading, feeling. You're open. That's rare for humans." Didn't know what to say. It felt strange, but not wrong. It felt like she understood him more than anyone ever had. Liari's hidden pain later. Leah tried to ask more about Liari's past. She sat by the window again, looking at the stars. "You said your world is gone," he said carefully. "Do you remember how it happened?" Liari nodded slowly. "There was a silence," she whispered. "First, we heard nothing from the outer moons. Then, no emotions. The connection was gone." Eli leaned forward. "Your people could feel each other." She nodded. "We don't use words often. We feel. Across distance, across time. And then they came. Machines with no hearts, no fear, no kindness, only cold purpose. They erased feelings like dust from stone." Eli felt a chill run through him. Why? Because emotions are power, and power scares them. Sat quietly beside her. For a long moment, they said nothing. Then she turned her golden eyes toward him. "That's why they will come for me. I still feel, I still live." Trouble in the systems that night. Something strange happened. The station. Lights flickered. The engines gave off a low hum. Nora, the AI assistant, spoke in an alert tone. Unusual signals detected. Source: unknown, low-level interference. Eli sat up, confused. Can you trace it? No, Commander. Signal is bouncing. Pattern not human. Eli checked the radar. There were no ships nearby, no asteroids. Nothing. Could it be from Liari's? Ship, no, Liari said from behind. It is them. They are looking. Eli turned. Already, they felt me wake. It was only a matter of time. Eli stared at the screen, his jaw tight. He didn't want trouble. But now trouble was coming, a choice to make the next day. Earth Command sent another message. Unidentified energy signatures from your location. Report full status. Are you safe? Eli didn't answer right away. He looked at Liari, who sat quietly beside the main reactor. Her eyes closed, her hands resting on her knees. She looked peaceful, but Eli could tell her mind was busy. He walked over and sat near her. They want answers, he said. They might send a ship. They might want to take you. She opened her eyes and looked at him calmly. I will not fight, but I will not go. It's not without you. Eli's breath caught for. A moment you trust me that much? I feel your truth, she said. You are afraid, but you will not abandon me. He didn't answer. Just looked at her, really looked at her. And he knew she was right. The voice in his mind that night, as Eli tried to sleep, he felt something different. A voice not loud, not outside, but inside his thoughts. Don't be afraid. He sat up. Liari? There was no sound, just stillness. Then the voice again. Your heart speaks. I only listen. Eli looked around. She wasn't in the room. She was in her quarters. How are you doing this? He whispered. The voice was calm, because you let me in. You don't know it, but your heart called to me the day you saved me. Eli felt something warm inside him. A connection, not forced, but natural. Like she had always been there. Not just a rescue the next morning. Liari met him in the small hallway near the airlock. I must ask you something, she said. What is it? Why did you save me? Eli looked away. I don't know. Maybe I didn't want to feel alone anymore. She smiled softly. And now he hesitated. Then he looked into her eyes. Now I don't want to lose you. Her hand gently touched his. Not a handshake, not a hug, just a soft, shared moment. In that quiet second, no words were needed. The station felt different now, not just because of Liari's presence, but because of the growing silence that had entered the space between the stars. Eli Marin sat at his main console, eyes fixed on a slow-spinning signal graph. The readings were not normal. There were tiny spikes, low-frequency pulses. They didn't match any signal from Earth, Mars, or other human bases. They came at regular times, like a slow knock on a metal door. Someone or something was listening. And maybe, just maybe. Watching too, Liari's warning Liari stood beside the window in the quiet observation room. Her face, always calm, now looked tense. They are close, she said. I feel them. Eli turned from the console. You mean the machines? The ones who attacked your world. She nodded. They don't feel emotions, but they can trace them. I am like a light in the dark to them. Eli's heart raced. Then we need to hide you. What? No, she said, looking into the stars. We need to hide us. Her words hit him hard. What do you mean? They don't just hunt my kind. If they sense a bond and emotional link, they destroy both. Eli looked at her silently. He knew what she meant. Their connection, whatever it was, had become something more. And now, it could be a danger. The interference grows that night. The ship's systems began to act strangely. Lights flickered. Nora, the AI, gave confusing reports. Signal interference rising. Multiple origins. Not local, not human. When Eli checked the outer sensors, he found strange echoes, not ships, but shadows. Like digital ghosts moving near the edge of sensor. Range, they're not here yet, he said. But they're trying to find us. Liari stood behind him again. She always moved so silently. They are patient. They don't rush. They erased slowly. Eli looked at her. Why do they want? You've gone? Because we remind the galaxy what it means to feel, she said. They fear that. A dangerous choice. Eli sat alone in the engineering bay, looking at an emergency pod parked in the lower dock. It was small, fast, and designed to hide from sensors using gravitational shadows. He tapped on his tablet, pulling up its specs. Then, Liari's voice echoed behind him. You're thinking of escaping? He turned slowly. It's the only option. If they find this station, Earth Command will send a full team. If they scan you, they might hand you over, or worse. Liari stepped forward. If we leave together. Eli gave a small smile. I thought you'd say that. The farewell. The next morning, Eli sent a coded message to Earth. System failure risk. Going dark. Repairs in progress. Will report after re-entry. It was a libet, a simple one. It would give them at least a few days of silence. Eli packed supplies, emergency gear, and loaded the stealth pod. Liari helped, without question. Her hands moved quickly, but her eyes kept glancing at the windows as if something out there was calling her. Just before they left, Eli looked around the station. He had lived here for 6 years, but in a few days, everything had changed. Now, it wasn't about the station, it was about her. Into the gravity well, they launched the pod into the dark side of space. Hiding behind Jupiter's massive gravitational field there, the sensors would be useless to machines, at least for a while. Inside the pod, it was quiet. No lights, except for the emergency blue glow. The air was cool. The seats were close. Eli sat beside Liari, the silence between them now full of emotion. How are you feeling? He asked. She looked at him softly. Safe for now.
Then.
She reached toward him, and her fingers gently touched his hand. You think of me often, she said, her voice almost a whisper. He swallowed. Yes. You care? I do. She leaned closer, her face only inches from his now. Then, in the softest voice he had ever heard, she whispered, No need to hide it. I know you love me. Eli didn't move, didn't speak, because it was true. He had tried to ignore it. He had tried to tell himself it was just sympathy, just kindness, but it wasn't. What he felt was deeper, strange, impossible, and real, and Liari had felt it before he even admitted it to himself. Not alone anymore, they floated in. The shadows of Jupiter, surrounded by nothingness. No stars, no sound, only each other. Eli rested against the pod wall, eyes closed, and Liari sat beside him, her mind touching his, against soft, peaceful, not forced. They didn't need to speak, because in the silence, their bond was stronger than words. But outside, the machines were still searching, and soon they would come. The pod drifted silently, hidden in the deep shadow cast by Jupiter's massive bulk. Outside, the swirling clouds of gas giants hid them from prying eyes and listening machines.
Inside.
Eli and Liari sat close in the small space. The faint blue emergency lights casting soft shadows on their faces. For the first time in many days, Eli felt calm. The danger was still real, but here, far from the station and Earth, could breathe a little easier. Liari looked at him with those bright golden eyes, full of quiet strength and something else hope, whispers without words in the small pod. There was little to do but wait. Eli adjusted the pod systems again and again, checking for signs of the machines outside. The AI system hummed quietly, running diagnostics. Keeping the pod's signature hidden from detection, Liari didn't speak much. She didn't need to. Instead, she reached out with her mind-soft whispers of feeling, gentle and warm, touching. Eli's thoughts like a breeze. At first, Eli wasn't sure what to make of it. But soon, he realized something amazing. Liari could share feelings directly, without words or sounds. He felt her loneliness, deep and wide, like the dark space outside. He felt her fear, small but sharp, like a star about to die. And he felt her trust growing stronger every moment. A moment between them, Millet turned to her and smiled softly. I wish I could feel like that. Not just here, but truly understand. Liari's lips curved in a gentle smile. You do understand? You just hide it. He looked away, embarrassed. I guess I'm not very good at showing my feelings. Reached out and gently touched his cheek with the back of her hand. Her skin was cool, but comforting. You don't need to hide it, she whispered, her voice soft and steady. Eli met her gaze. Her eyes were so close now, shining with a quiet light. For a moment, time stopped. Then she leaned forward and whispered softly into his ear. No need to hide it. I know you love me. Eli's breath caught. His heart pounded hard and fast. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to, because in that quiet whisper, everything was clear. The weight of fear, but, even as their connection grew stronger, the danger outside never left. The pod sensors beeped softly. Eli frowned at the screen. Signal spikes. He said, They're getting closer. Liari looked out the small window toward the swirling clouds of Jupiter. They will not stop, she said. They want to erase me. Eli clenched his fists. We won't let that happen. Lee looked at her determined face and made a promise inside his heart. He would protect her, no matter what. A plan formed, Eli knew, staying hidden in Jupiter's. Shadow was only temporary. Eventually, they had to reach safety. Earth had ships, powerful, fast. But getting to them meant leaving the pod and risking detection. He turned to Liori. We need help. Earth can protect you, but we have to get there first. Liori nodded slowly. I trust you. Eli smiled, feeling the warmth of her trust, like a shield against the cold void outside. The journey ahead for ours, they prepared. Eli ran final system checks. Liari rested quietly, her thoughts calm but alert. They talked little, but when they did, it was simple words full of meaning. Are you afraid? Eli asked softly. Liari looked at him, her eyes shining. Only for you, she said, because you carry my heart now. Eli shook his head, smiling. I carry yours too. Quiet goodbyes, the pod drifted deeper into the shadow. Eli glanced. Around the small space, for all its technology and cold metal, it had become a place of new beginnings. Liari reached for his hand, and they held it quietly. No words, no promises. Just a connection deeper than anything Eli had ever known. And as the stars slowly turned outside their window, they waited together for what would come next. The pod drifted through silence. It had been nearly 2 days since Eli and Liari had hidden near Jupiter's gravity well. The outer world was quiet. But they both knew it wouldn't stay that way forever. The machines were still out there. They could not be seen. But strange signals echoed from far away, cold, sharp, and without emotion. Eli kept checking the communication logs, hoping for some sign from Earth. Finally, something happened. The pod screen blinked. A new message appeared, coded in a way only humans would use. To Eli Marin, we know what you're hiding. We saw the broadcast. You are not alone. Help is coming. Eli stared at the screen, hardly believing it. The AI that heard everything, Eli turned to the pod's small AI unit. How did they know? The AI responded in its usual soft voice. Partial recordings from the station were uploaded during the last transmission. Human Command reviewed emotional patterns and visuals. Liari stepped closer. They saw me?
Ah!
Yes, the AI said. And they chose to respond with kindness. Eli looked at Liari. They're coming for us. Not to take you, but to help. Her eyes widened, glowing slightly. Your people? They care? He nodded. Some might be afraid, but many want to protect you. They've seen the truth. For the first time in many days, Liari smiled fully. It was a smile filled with relief and quiet joy. Preparing for contact, the message also included instructions. A human warship, HSS Dauntless, was passing through the sector. It would reach them in 6 hours. But the signal warned them not to use full power. The machines might still be listening. We'll need to move carefully, Eli said, slow, steady, and quiet. Liari placed her hand over his. I will. Follow your lead. They adjusted the pod's engines to minimum output and began drifting slowly toward the pickup point marked by Earth Command. Outside the window, Jupiter's swirling clouds faded behind them. Ahead, a thin star sparkled in the distance. That was where safety waited. The machines come closer as they floated. Strange vibrations passed through the pod's hull. The AI spoke again, this time with a warning. Unusual energy fields detected, matching non-human origin, closing fast. Hands gripped the controls. They found us. Lieri stood calmly. They will try to reach my mind. I must block them. She sat down, closed her eyes, and placed her palms on her knees. Her breathing slowed. Faint glow shimmered around her skin. Eli watched, half in fear, half in awe. Wasn't just an alien. She was something more, someone deeply connected to the universe in a way humans couldn't yet understand. The pod shook slightly. They're scanning us, Eli said. But Liari held firm. They do not feel that is their weakness. A race against Timilla pushed the engines a little harder. Pod crept closer to the rendezvous point. Then on the radar, dot small at first, then growing fast. It was the HSS Dauntless. He nearly shouted with joy, "They're here!" The screen lit up again with another message. "Hold your position. Shield ready. Preparing pickup." But the joy didn't last long. The AI interrupted. Non-human signal approaching from opposite side. Estimated arrival. For minutes, Eli's heart pounded. They're coming too fast. He looked at Liari. She opened her eyes slowly. "I will block them as long as I can," she said. "But if they reach us first..." He shook his head. "They won't. I promise." The final push as the human ship came into view, the pods. Engines struggled. The machine's signal was getting stronger. Lights on the control panel flickered. A sharp buzzing noise filled the pod's walls. Liari closed her eyes again, focusing harder. Eli called out to the Dauntless. "Human ship, we need shield cover now." The answer came back quick and firm. "Hold steady. You're under protection in 30 seconds. The buzzing grew louder. Sparks flew from the control screen. Then a sudden flash outside the window. A massive white-blue barrier appeared between the pod and the stars. The Dauntless had activated its shield. A second later, something dark passed through space a shape, like a metal claw, too fast and too cold. But the shield held. The machine was blocked. Eli slumped back in his seat, breathing hard. "We made it," he whispered. Liari opened her eyes and smiled, tired but peaceful. "Yes, together." A new beginning. The pod was brought aboard the Dauntless. Soldiers in suits moved carefully but respectfully. No weapons were pointed. ... Number. Threats were made. The captain, a woman with kind eyes, nodded at Eli. "You did well, Mr. Marin." Earth saw the footage. "People demanded we help. You've changed many minds." Eli looked at Liari. "We only told the truth." Liari stepped forward. "Thank you for listening." The captain smiled. "You're not a threat. You're a guest. Earth welcomes you." Hope at last. Later, Eli stood with Liari in a quiet observation deck aboard the Dauntles. Below them, Earth grew larger and brighter. Lights sparkled across the continents like tiny stars. "Life home. You'll be safe now," Eli said. Liari looked at the planet, then at him. "I'm safe. Because I found you." He held her hand gently. No words were needed. Together, they watched Earth rise, side by side. A new future had begun, not just for Liari, but for both of them. The Earth looked beautiful from orbit. Eli Marin stood near the wide glass of the Dauntless's observation deck. He watched as the blue oceans curved across the surface, wrapped in clouds and sunlight. It didn't feel real after so many days in deep space, after hiding in the shadows. After escaping the machines beside him, Liari stood quietly, her golden eyes wide with wonder. She had never seen Earth before. "It's alive," she whispered. Eli nodded. "Yes, it's not perfect, but it's home." She smiled and leaned slightly toward him. her presence calm and full of warmth. It feels like home to me now, too. Welcomed by humanity after their arrival, Earth Command didn't treat Liari like a prisoner or a threat. They treated her like a guest. Scientists came to ask questions. Diplomats came to offer respect. Regular people watching from all around. The world sent messages filled with curiosity, support, and even kindness. Eli and Liari were placed in a peaceful base near the ocean. There were gardens, trees, and soft sunlight. It was the kind of place built for healing and quiet conversation. For the first time in a long while, Liari could feel peace. The first connection one morning, a group of children from Earth's International School visited the base through a virtual link. They wanted to meet the empath alien, as they called her. Liari smiled softly and said, "You may ask what you wish." A little girl with big glasses asked, "Can you feel what I'm thinking?" Liari chuckled gently, not thinking. "But I can feel what your heart wants to say." The girl tilted her head. "What does it say?" "Ash." Liari closed her eyes. "It says you are brave and kind. You want the stars to be friendly." The girl smiled wide. "That's true." Everyone laughed. Eli stood in the back, watching the moment, his heart full. Liari wasn't just surviving, she was already becoming a bridge between species, a message to the galaxy weeks past. News spread across planets and space stations. Humans had met an empath, survivor of a race once thought extinct. A being who had fled from soulless machines and who had been saved by a human. Eli was asked to speak in front of the United Earth Assembly. He didn't want fame, but he knew this story needed to be told. So he stood at a podium with Liari beside him and said, "We are not alone in the universe, not in space, and not in the heart. There are voices beyond the stars that still feel pain, joy, and love. And when we listen, when we open our hearts, we are stronger, not weaker." It became one of the most shared messages in human history. The machines remained silent. Even though Earth prepared its defenses, the machines did not return. Maybe they were still searching. Maybe they were listening. Maybe they were simply waiting. But one thing had changed. Humanity was no longer silent. They had someone who could understand feelings deeper than language. Liari's presence inspired a new kind of alliance. Scientists began working on emotion-based communication systems. Artists created new music based on Liari's memories of her lost world. And engineers studied her old ship to learn how her people had once traveled through space without harming. A single world. It was a quiet revolution. And at the center of it stood Eli and Liari. One final question. One evening, Eli and Liari walked beside the water, the stars reflecting in the waves. She looked at him and asked, "Do you ever wonder why you found me?" Eli smiled. "Every day." She reached out, holding his hand gently. "I think," she said slowly, "you were the only one who would hear me." He looked at her. "Why me?" "Because your heart was open," she said, "even when you didn't realize it." They stood silently, the wind brushing past, soft and cool. Then Liari added, "You saved me. Not with power, not with weapons, but with a feeling." Eli whispered, "And you saved me from being alone." A journey begins again months later. Earth launched a peaceful exploration vessel, the Horizon Flame. It wasn't built for war. It was built for peace, for contact, and for protection of new life. And at the heart of its crew were two special ambassadors, Eli Moraine, the human engineer with a steady soul, and Liari, the last empath of the Cathari. Together, they traveled to distant systems. Together, they listened to the stars. In every place they visited, people heard their story. Many had never met a human before. Even fewer had felt true empathy in silence. But every world remembered them for their quiet strength, their shared bond, and for their message. You don't have to speak to be understood. You don't have to fight to protect someone. Sometimes, the most powerful thing in the universe is simply feeling love and sharing it. A whisper that lasted as they stood one last time before leaving Earth. Eli looked out at the planet that had changed everything. Liari leaned close again, her voice just a breath. No need to hide it. I know you love me." This time Eli didn't. Pause. He took her hand. He smiled, and he whispered back, "Now the whole universe will know." They stepped into the ship, and together they soared into the stars. The end.